It's been a dramatic few days for commercial aviation, with passengers on 3 separate airlines suffering terrifying ordeals involving severe in-flight turbulence. Well, on Sunday, 12 people were injured on a Qatar Airways flight that was en route from Doha to Dublin. Then there was an incident involving a Turkish Airlines flight en route from Istanbul to Izmir. And last week, many more people were injured, and one passenger died when a Singapore Airlines flight en route from London to Singapore hit severe turbulence, which threw people around the cabin, and the plane had to make an emergency landing. Well, this type of severe in-flight turbulence is rare, but there does appear to be an increasing number of incidents, prompting many people to ask, could climate change be a factor? France 24's Emerald Maxwell has more.
26 of the passengers injured on flight SQ321 remain in hospital with skull, brain and spine injuries, more than a week after their Singapore Airlines plane hit severe turbulence, which also resulted in the death of a 73-year-old man. The Thai Transport Ministry said in a statement Wednesday that the aircraft experienced a rapid change in G-force and a sudden 54-metre altitude drop in the space of 4.6 seconds. The force of which catapulted passengers and crew members who weren't strapped in into the cabin roof. It's still unclear what caused the turbulence, but the incident was one of 3 over a week, with passengers and flight attendants also injured in a Turkish Airlines flight and on a Qatar Airways plane after they experienced turbulence.
Suddenly, the plane fell. The flight attendant, the poor flight attendant, went into the air.
It was for the 10 or 15 seconds, and that was the worst 15 seconds of my life.
Most people associate turbulence with clouds and storms, but global warming may be causing more clear air turbulence, which occurs when differences in temperature and pressure create powerful currents of air. The phenomenon is notoriously difficult to avoid because it cannot be seen or picked up on pilots' radar systems. And according to a study last year by Reading University, it increased 55% between 1979 and 2020 in the North Atlantic. Airlines are working on a solution to better monitor clear air turbulence, but in the meantime, Singapore Airlines and others said they would tighten their seatbelt policies.
OK, well, for more analysis, we can cross to London and speak to Nadine Itani, who is the programme leader and lecturer in air transport management at University of Surrey. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. I mean, as we heard in that report, there are different types of turbulence. Some are really difficult to spot on the radar. I mean, how rare is it that there should be turbulence and a fatality, as there was last week with that Singapore Airlines flight?
Thank you for having me. Well, turbulence is, in terms of aviation operations, it is more as an inconvenience matter rather than a safety matter. And looking at the safety record and the incidents in the last 30 years, there is minimal number of accidents involving deaths that has been caused by air turbulences. But of course, I mean, in terms of the detection of the air turbulence, the clear air turbulence is one of the riskiest types of turbulences, as the reports mentioned, because it is hard to detect and it happens within clear skies, so there is no cloud. And definitely within research and the environmental science, the latest research indicates that there is a significant correlation between climate change and what's happening, or actually the increase in frequency in clear air turbulence.
Yeah, so what you're saying is there could be a link, therefore, between an increase in these types of incident and climate change. I mean, what is the link exactly?
Well, in terms of air turbulences, it is simply the sudden movement of airflow that causes, when it hits the aircraft, it causes the change in the position and direction and the altitude of the aircraft. So in the atmosphere, we have different masses of air, and these air masses have different speeds, temperature, density, and pressure as well. And due to climate change and the rising temperatures, This is causing a change in the wind masses and the profile of the wind masses. So the movement of air and the jet streams that are within the air routes of the aircrafts are changing in their dynamics and in their profiles. And the studies also indicate that for every 1% increase in average temperature, we are going to witness an increase in the frequency around 10% of the clear air turbulence. So there is a significant correlation between the increasing temperatures and the air turbulence.
Do you think planes are built in a robust enough way to withstand all types of turbulence, even when it's really severe? And I'm thinking, when you're on an older plane, sometimes it does sound like things are rattling around a little bit. I mean, if an older aircraft found itself in the same situation as that much newer Singapore Airlines Boeing 777, would it be able to withstand it, or would it risk breaking up at all?
Well, the good news is that aircraft, in terms of design and engineering, they are engineered and designed to withstand severe and extreme weather conditions. And during manufacturing, all the tests that the aircraft parts, specifically the wings of the aircraft, are subject to heavy stress tests. So the wings bend in very high, steep degrees. So it's very rarely that an aircraft could be harmed structurally due to turbulence. So it's a matter of preserving the safety of the passengers and the crew, of course, when turbulence happens and when the bouncing happens in terms of the position of the aircraft.
Do you think that, based on what we've seen in the last few days, these various incidents, airlines are going to have a rethink about some of the rules of passenger travel, i.e. insisting that passengers keep their seatbelts fastened at all times, full stop, unless they're getting up to go to the bathroom? But I mean, had people been wearing a seatbelt on that Singapore Airlines flight right across the cabin, there would be nothing like the level of damage, would there?
Well, absolutely. I mean, airlines started already changing and adapting their policies in order to address the safety concerns and the implications on the passengers and crew as well. Some airlines are considering to extend, of course, the duration of wearing the seatbelts, keeping them on most of the duration of the flight. Also, in terms of servicing the hot meals and the beverages, it will be suspended when the seatbelt signs are on. Also, some adaptation for policies regarding the babies. So no more sitting in the laps of parents. The babies should be always fastened in their child seats. So it's more like precautions inside the cabin, in flight, and the ability, of course, of the aircrew and the pilots to be able to attain on time weather information, or even information from the preceding pilots that are passing through the same routes, because apparently clear air turbulence could be detected, and it's happening across specific routes that could be forecasted over different frequencies and because of the aircraft movement in this specific route.
Okay, well, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Nadine Itani, lecturer in air transport management at the University of Surrey. Thank you very much indeed for your time this evening.
My pleasure.
India's